Good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you all for bearing with me. I had a little pet errand I had to run to get one of the little babies of the vet to get fixed, and that's what messed up the time earlier. And y'all thought it was a little bit earlier, so thank y'all for hanging around. I apologize about that right off the top. But today is a great one. Going to be a great interview. I've been speaking to this gentleman for a while, and I've been trying to set it up for a while, and just craziness among craziness has happened. But we're lucky enough to have our second Navy Seawolf aviator slash door gunner today with us. We, of course, had Mr. Larry Rogers on, and he gave us some amazing photographs, and I just thought about bringing some of those out, but I'll do that while Mr. John's speaking. Mr. John was a E4 third class petty officer, and he was with the Seawolves at DET-9. I believe you Ranch Gia. I'll let him correct me on that. But Mr. John's going to go ahead and take over. He's going to give a little bio on himself and how he came to find himself with the Seawolves and in the Navy in Vietnam. So, Mr. John, thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. Back when I was in high school, my senior year, is when I first heard about Vietnam. I do come from a somewhat military background. My real father was a pilot for B-25s, B-17s, B-29s during World War II. He unfortunately got killed in a car accident after he got home. My stepfather happened to land on Omaha Beach. So, it's kind of always planned on going in the military right out of high school. So I did, and I wanted to fly. I wanted to be some kind of air crew or whatever, because at that time, to be a pilot, you had to have 4 years of college and things like that. And I didn't think I had time. I wanted to get to Vietnam before it was over. And so I enlisted right out of high school, and I went into Navy, and I went into the aviation branch. So after boot camp, I went to a couple of the schools. One was a mechanics school for propeller engines, which I never even worked on. But from there, I did volunteer for Vietnam my first day. Did a couple of years, a 2-year tour with an outfit called VQ-1, which was fixed wing aircraft, Reconnaissance Squadron. Excuse me. In fact, they were the squadron that had a plane shot down by North Korea, if you remember those days. So during my 2 years in that squadron, I spent 14 months in a detachment, which was in Da Nang, Vietnam. And because of that, I was entitled, if you want to call it that, it kind of gave me my choice of my next duty station. Well, while in Vietnam, I heard of the Seawolves. Actually, I didn't hear the name. I just heard of the squadron, which is Helicopter Attack Light Squadron 3, and needing door gunners. So I turned down anything I could have had and volunteered, went back. Came home for some training, which was survival school. SEER school is survival, evasion, resistance, escape, where they taught you how to survive. And from there, I was sent to Hell 3, which was our main base at that time was in Ben Tui. And because of my rate, there were no propeller engines on Hueys. So fortunately for me, because I didn't want to work on them anyhow, I was sent out to my detachment right away. So I was only at the headquarters for a couple of weeks, and I was out on detachment. The spelling is how you pronounced it, but it was called Rockjaw, and it was where I was located in Vietnam. So that's the mini version. I'm open for questions.
Yes, sir. And I actually just found some of the jump drive that Mr. Larry sent me of some good Seawolf photos. So we'll be able to show the crowd some great photos that you'll be able to talk us through about the birds, because everyone, anytime I share any photos of you guys and you guys with those dadgum 50 cows on the side, people are like, no way they flew that there's no way the birds could even got off the ground. Well, y'all, if y'all want to ask about how it was done and all of that, y'all go ahead and start getting your questions in, because this is the man to ask right here. But you had mentioned, and guys, I strangely enough, this is the first time this has ever happened in 120 something interviews on here. I've lost my notes from my talkings with Mr. John, so this is literally going to be like my first time speaking with him. So we're gonna get into it here, so to speak. You as you said, you had mentioned you had family members that had served.
Right.
Did you and clearly it looks like you were going to continue the tradition. Did you always want to be in the air, shall we say, or did you have thoughts originally of being a ground pounder and wanting to get after it with the Army or the Marine Corps, perhaps?
Nope. I wanted wings mainly, and I didn't care. Yeah, I just thought of the Marine Aviation, which is in the Navy also. But the best chance I had of being a crew member when I went in was with the Navy. So that's
Excellent.
what I did.
Excellent. And what year did you say you ended up enlisting with the Navy?
Went in there within a delay program where you enlist and you have a few weeks or months off before you go in. I went into active duty boot camp September 18th of 68
Wow.
and actually got out 6 months early out, which was March 14th of 72. But I was actually in Vietnam from August of 69 to March of 72.
Holy
With
cow.
both squadrons and back and forth with the first one.
Wow. That's a lot of time in country right there for you. So you in boot camp, were, as I said, we've had a semi-modern Navy SEAL on, and gosh, some force recon guys. I don't think we've had anybody specifically from the Navy in the Vietnam time frame. Mr. Larry spoke a little bit about his time boot camp and all of that. What was well, first off, where was your naval boot camp at?
I went to San Diego.
San Diego.
I live in a Chicago suburb.
Okay.
I had my whole life, and I'm here again. When I went in, they gave me my choice, a boot camp between San Diego and Great Lakes, which is right here in Chicago area.
Oh yeah.
And I said Great Lakes, and they said I could have it. And that night, they sent 60 guys from Chicago to San Diego.
Oh, and you were one of the 60.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think they didn't want us to run back home for whatever reason.
Yeah,
May have been the reasoning. Let me clarify something too. My first tour with the VQ-1 wasn't solid at the time in Vietnam. It was a reconnaissance squadron based out of Atsugi, Japan. So
Oh,
for those 2 years, I went back and forth from Da Nang to Japan. And then because it was still all considered sea duty, and it was 2 years, I was entitled to kind of, a choice if it was available. And that's when I volunteered to be a door gunner, which is
oh,
now with Seawolves.
excellent. Okay. Okay. So, what were what was the boot camp and the school pipeline like for a naval man trying to become either a pilot or a door gunner? What was boot camp like for you?
Boot camp was strictly, they call it basic training. And at that time, it was only 6 weeks. I think they were kind of in a rush to get us out.
Mhm.
And it was, I don't remember much about it other than being a joke. So they taught you how to fold clothes. They hollered at you. They try to get you rattled because they want you to be able to handle pressure, I guess.
Mhm.
I'm not even sure. I was a squad leader in boot camp. So anytime one of my guys goofed up, I caught flack for it too. But, you know, it basically is I have no secrets, but I have no memory either. I don't remember much about boot camp other than just barely getting through. And they brought us up in classes and came out with different job descriptions, so you could try to get whatever rate you wanted. And I picked this rate that I was, because it was an aviation rate, and I went with the recip engines, the big propeller engines,
Mhm.
uh, because jets was either recips or jets. Jets were on boats. I didn't want to be on a boat. I wanted to be on the ground. So I took a rate that I knew was not going to set me on an aircraft carrier. And from there, I went to Memphis for the mechanical training. It was called an A school, and it was just basically teaching you how to work on that type of engine, which didn't really apply. But because of that engine, they had that type of aircraft in VQ-1. There was 3 different aircraft we had, and one was the Willie Victor, the EC-121. That's the plane that Korea shot down. Because it was a recip engine, that's where I was set because I had trained for that, even though I never worked on it when I got there. I was sent to other assignments.
Oh wow. How I can imagine it's pretty dadgum in depth and everything. What was how was mechanic school in Memphis? What was it? What was it like?
You know, it wasn't much. It was I don't know how many weeks it was, but it was just showing you how to work on that type of engine. And like I said, when I got to the squadron, even though they had that type, I never actually worked on it. I was assigned to the line crew or as a security detachment there. When I went back and forth to Vietnam, again, I never worked on the engine. I launched a recovered aircraft from the base, or I worked security, standing guard duty on these different little outposts around our base throughout the evenings and nights. And that's what I did with that squadron. It's actually rather boring. And the only, we ducked rockets and mortars a lot in Da Nang. And I felt that I just wanted to do more than that. So, I want to be on the offense more than the defense, I guess. So that's when I volunteered for, when I heard of the Seawolves.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. So from your training in Memphis, where did you say the next school you went off to, or was that pretty much it and you were headed to Vietnam
Well, that was it. I was headed to VQ1 in Japan.
and
At
Japan?
that time, it was classified because it was a reconnaissance squadron. And it was a 2-year assignment, like I said, but we had a big detachment in Vietnam and Da Nang. So that's all the schooling I had for that. Now, when I volunteered for the Seawolves, I came back home and I went through an airframes power plant school through the Army base at Fort Eustis, Virginia. 8 of us from the Navy were in an Army base. And then went through SEER school, which is survival, evasion, resistance, escape, that I mentioned earlier. And there was a quick door gunner school where they stuck you in a UE and they flew and you fired blanks a couple of times, and that was it. And the rest was sent right over there. And my case, I was only in the headquarters place for a couple of weeks and was sent out to the detachment where the gunners, trained me on the spot or on the job training. One guy in particular, John Setters, who's no longer with us, took me under his wing and trained me, and we flew probably 500 missions together. So,
Holy cow. Wow.
and then in turn, I eventually trained a couple guys too as they came on. Yeah, we did a lot of flying, no question about it.
Jesus, sounds like it. I mean, good Lord. So I mean, yeah, wow. I mean that is pretty quick, and I mean, so you said it was quick. That door gunner. I mean, was it good enough to at least get you familiar with weapons in the door, and
Yeah,
and
they
that's
did.
about it?
Yeah, in fact, the first night I got there, and from then on until I learned what we call earned our seat, you sat in the middle of the 2 door gunners, and you watched what they did, and they trained you. And after a couple of that, then they put you in a seat, and the trainer was behind you, and you learned how to fire. And in the Navy, the Seawolves was just the opposite sides of the Army. Our pilot was on the right side, and he fired the rocket pods. The co-pilot was on the left side, and he fired a pilot amount of minigun. The second gunner, the newer, when I was trained first, was on the left side on the M60. When I earned my seat, as they call it, I didn't need to have somebody training me. Then I went over to also learn the right side were the 50 cal, and then you became a crew chief slash first gunner. The Army call it door gunner, and I think they call it crew chief. We call it first gunner, second gunner. Same thing, just different titles, and just the opposite sides of the aircraft.
Wow, wow. And when you mentioned, and did you say the first group you were with was VQ1?
Right. In the Navy, V stands for fixed wing aircraft. Q was a designation for reconnaissance because R was taken for patrol and P was taken for something else. And so that they wound up with the letter Q, VQ1.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
It was Fleet Air Reconnaissance Squadron 1.
Okay. And you said you spent around a year or so with them?
It was a 2-year assignment, 2 years.
Wow. Okay, man. And you mentioned you ended up hearing about the Seawolves. Do you remember where and what the situation was to where you heard this and say,
Yes,
"Hey,
sure
this
do.
is something I want to do"?
Yeah, I didn't hear about them while I was there until it was about the time I was leaving. Now, mind you, it's over a 2 year period. I was actually in Vietnam in Da Nang when I heard of it, and they came out with like a dream sheet where you want to go when you left that squadron, and that's when I heard of them. So I actually volunteered for Seawolves while in Vietnam with my first squadron.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I mean, considering you're volunteering for Vietnam duty, shall we say, and combat, what's the protocol for that? Are you vetted? Are you doing what are you doing to get in to for them to vet you or anything?
Okay, yeah, I went through the training at back here, like I said,
Mhm.
and then once you went out, as I explained how I was trained from earn my seat. Once you were ready, they sent out a certified NATOP instructor, just like a driver's test, and you had to pass your driver's test. And when you did that, then you earned your wings and went from there.
Wow. Okay. Wow, that's pretty cool. And you passed with flying colors and
No pun intended.
yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. No pun intended. And what exactly is next in line? What happens when you pass? Are you immediately off to a det?
Oh, and this was at the DET.
Oh, this was
Never
already
forget
at the
that.
det.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And yeah, then you flew when you're on duty. We actually flew 24 on, 24 off,
Holy
supposedly.
cow.
But there were times when we're short gunners and you just constantly flew. Prior to earning your seat, learning this, you were on call or on duty there 24/7. Every time that bird flew, you flew, unless it was a real hot item, hot situation. They might need the extra space for some wounded or whatever. But other than that, every combat mission, you were putting in strikes and shooting and everything. You went until you earned your seat, and then the other trainer didn't have to go with you. So we flew in pairs. You had two pilots, two gunners in each of two aircraft. We had, like I said, two aircraft on a detachment.
That I mean 24 on, 24 off. That is one heck of a schedule that
If you got off before you earned your seat, you didn't get a day off at all. You were on 24/7 every day until you learned your job.
holy cow.
Yeah,
And
the numbers, I still shake my head. It's hard to believe how much we did, how much flying we did.
I mean, I can only imagine when you're saying if you got off. Did when you pass and all of that, what's the what's your first who were you first introduced to get on a bird or start working on a bird?
Yeah, it was that my buddy John Setters took me under his wing, trained me basically. Other guys would too. He flew with other people, but he was my main guy. And then eventually, he wasn't training me; he was flying with me, or we're flying together. And then as the newer gunners came in, I also got involved in training them as well. So it's one of those passing it on to each other. You know what I mean? It was on the job training.
Wow. And that's a lot of what Mr. Larry was saying that you guys were doing a lot of OJT. I mean, because literally what y'all were doing, I mean, a lot of it had not been done before.
Oh, there you go.
Is
Popped up a
that,
picture. That's John Setters right there. Yeah, great guy.
I was
I
hoping
think
I'd
that's
find a photo of him.
I think that's Heckman was his name next to him. I think, pretty sure because I'm looking at the backside of him. But that's definitely John Setters.
Now, excuse me, guys. Apologize about that. Two questions. What was going on here? Was this just a normal aircrafts coming into land, or?
No, if you see the smoke on the ground, it's that black and white. Obviously, I don't know what color it was. It was basically saying goodbye. Somebody in that helicopter was leaving. He was going back home.
Oh, this
And
is a going away flight.
yeah, I didn't realize that until years later when, we had the pictures and the setters actually told me what it was. Yeah, somebody was going home. That little
Wow.
strip on the ground there is all we had to land on. And somewhere in the, beyond that picture were the two little buildings that we had, that we with the ready crew, where we slept, and the two choppers were right outside the door.
Holy cow. Well, Setter's, I mean, he doesn't look old, but you can tell he's would be older than you guys coming in. Was he an old hand? Had he done multiple tours, or what
No,
was?
he was there before me, obviously.
Mhm.
I don't know how much longer or earlier rather. We all left when we pulled out of there. It was March of '72. We left. Their whole detachment shut down, so we pulled out together. We left together. Uh, he probably a year or two older than I was. I don't. He was a couple of ranks ahead of me also.
Oh,
Or let
okay.
me think. Yeah, well, at least one. So he probably had a year or two on me in time in the service. He actually stayed in and made a career of it. Got
Oh,
out of E9, which is the best you can do as enlisted.
wow. And yeah, I'd forgot there 72. I mean, y'all are literally some of the last combat troops in
Yeah,
South Vietnam.
yes, we were.
That's amazing. Do you remember what are your first gig on the helicopter? Do you remember your pilot and all of that? Do you remember who you were paired up with to work with?
No, I don't remember the pilots. I do remember my first flight, not knowing what to expect. I was sitting in between the two gunners on the ammo boxes, and you're wearing a helmet with the ears in it for sound protection. And the minigun on the right side opened up. Now, if you know what a minigun is, it sounds like okay, 2 and 4,000 rounds a minute. And as I turned my head, that seal came loose, so I got to hear the whole thing. It was like whoa! It kind of woke you up a little bit. That was my first time, and then I realized what was going on. It was fine, and I really don't remember any specifics afterwards. Like I said, we flew a lot, kind of a blur. A couple incidents popped up that I would remember, but there you go. That's a great picture. The gentleman on the left, the dark sunglasses, VNAF, that's the Vietnamese Air Force. They were the cream of the crop. They came out to learn tactics with us as we were winding down. I guess it was that Vietnamization program or whatever. But the guy on the minigun, sitting behind the minigun actually, is Tom Chukovich. All those pictures you'll see in a black and white like that were taken by Tom. I actually trained him when he came out, and we flew a couple hundred missions together. And we're still in contact, obviously, with the reunions and everything. We've still become close friends. But Tom took all those pictures. That is in the UE doorway. The gunner, the pilot actually wouldn't be sitting there. He'd be sitting up front flying. But that was a Vietnamese Air Force that came out and flew with us.
With their trademark black jumpsuits.
Yeah, flight suit. Yeah, that one in particular. Yeah, I see the picture that went back later. I don't remember his name. I remember one of the gunners named. I guess I don't remember his name. I forget, but I remember him pretty well because there's some pretty good guys. They're really decent. So
And
yeah, I've always wondered what happened to him after we left. I don't
uh,
like that idea at all.
yeah, someone had commented it must have been awful to say goodbye to some of y'all's comrades that
Right?
stayed behind.
Yep.
Um,
I know our gunners in particular. One was saying how when he got out, he felt bad because he's leaving his guys behind. In my case, I didn't have that. We were all leaving. I
mhm.
wasn't leaving the debt or the gunners or anybody, but my friends behind. We're all coming home, so that was easier on me than it was for the other guys who left earlier. I think.
Yeah, wow. Yes, sir. I didn't even think about it like that. Kind of jumping ahead a bit. Um, did you were you using the minigun at times, or were you always on a M60?
No, well, everything. Once you became a second gunner, you were on the M60. When you became the first gunner, you were qualified. Then you were on 50 cal or the minigun. We had a 50 cal in our lead bird. We had a minigun in our trail bird on the right side. Also, both birds had miniguns on the pylon, which is the thing that sticks out on the side.
Mm.
Pylon mounted minigun. I like to brag that I spent over $1 million of taxpayers' money on ammo. Now I spend $1 million of taxpayers' money on the medical through the VA. That's our home. That's where we lived, right there. That building in the upper right corner was a ready hooch. It consisted of a little space and a few bunks that we had when you're on duty. Shows you how close you were. That was one of the choppers. There's one behind it that's not in the picture.
It looks like is that one of the miniguns right here? It's kind of blurry, but
It is blurry.
it
Yeah,
looks like
that's definitely a minigun. Yeah, if you look
wow.
further down from there, that little go to your right there. That's the rocket pod. The 7.62 rockets were going in there. Same on the other side. And if you go up on it, maybe you can't see what's mounted in the right side. But in the right doorway, yeah, hanging there, that's an M60 right there. And on the other side would be either the 50 cal or the minigun. I'm guessing it'd be the 50. Yeah, I see the ammo box. Yeah, that one would have the 50 cal on it right there.
God almighty, that is a ton of firepower on one bird. I mean, good Lord,
Yeah.
have mercy.
And the other one had the same thing except the minigun instead of 50 cal.
Gosh, jeez Louise. So when you guys are when you're in there and going, do you I know it's hard. Do you remember your first couple of missions and what that was like to really get
No,
in it?
I really don't. It's just a blur.
Wow.
You got comfortable. I mean, you learn what you know what you were doing. As simple as that. And you just did your job. But again, like I said, the amount of missions, I flew 558, and I can only remember a handful of different times. Just like I said, it's all just a blur.
I mean, that is an insane amount. 558. I mean, I get nervous and get the bubble guts, as they call it, hearing about y'all talk about getting on a flight or going out and all of that. I just can't. And like you said, you just, it's your job and y'all get used to it. It's just another day at the office, and which is in itself something insane to really think about it when you stop and think. So could you kind of explain to us at this time, what debt was this with DET-8? Were you with DET-8 at the time?
Yeah, the whole time I was at DET-8.
Okay.
Minus a couple weeks when I first got there.
And now, where was DET-8? I may have butchered it in the intro, but where was it located, DET-8?
Okay, if you look at a map on the far west coast of Vietnam, you got on the southern tip is the Cam Peninsula. If you go further north, there's a little indentation there on the map. It's called Rockjaw, and that's where I was located. Our area of operation was mainly the Human Forest, which, if you did any research on it, if you do, it was real heavily infested bad guy area.
Bad place.
So that was our, yeah, there you go. Boy, you're on the ball. Zoom out again or zoom in. Right there. Yeah. That's the area.
I got, and there's Sukanukenville right there, where all of the imports, shall we say, were coming into for the NVA and the VC right there.
Okay. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, y'all are right there. There's a good map of it, but I mean, y'all are right there in the Delta. I mean,
right.
Tough stuff. Did what was? There we are. Lost you for a sec. What was y'all's AO like there around Ranch Kia? What was what I know hot, Vietnam's hot, but what's it like out there?
Quote, it's a jungle out there. Yeah, I do remember, especially in my first tour, because it's a little further up north. It would drop down in the evenings and get cold somewhat, but down in the Delta, I mean, it was, yeah, I mean, we got soaking wet in the monsoons and everything, but yeah, it was probably 100 degrees all the time, and it wasn't dry heat; it was wet, but just the Delta.
Wow. And did you And what was the mission set for the Seawolves? Was it strictly support the Navy SEALs, or were y'all on some attack missions on your own with the intel y'all got?
Right. When the squadron first formed, it was only in effect for 5 years. The
Wow.
idea was because we needed to support the SEALs and the riverboats who were getting whacked, and the Army couldn't fly at night or in bad weather, where the Navy pilots were commissioned pilots, and they were trained for instruments so they could fly in bad weather. But eventually, when they branched out, I'm sure you heard this from other people, and we supported everybody. Our area of operation was just that in itself. We would fly cover for the boats that they needed. We scrambled for the Army advisors when they were getting overrun, and it was just our whole area of operation. We'd go out and look for it, but usually we get some intel somewhere where the bad guys were, and we'd go out after them. Case in point, I'll tell you a quick story.
Oh, absolutely.
Winding down, we're getting ready to leave, and we go into the we went into the Army area. The Army had a base there for lunch. Excuse me. While at lunch, they told us that we're going home in 9 days. So coming back from lunch, as we pull into our detachment, the choppers are turning up. The off-duty crews had them ready to go for us. We were scrambled because they found 200 NVA caught out in the open. So we jump in, we take off flying. I remember this because of the situation. I asked, I said, what do we got? And the pilot said, 200 NVA caught out in the open. That's the North Vietnamese Army, the regulars. They were very well trained. And I said, what do they have? They said 351 cals. A 51 caliber could use our ammo, but we couldn't use theirs. So the big heavy machine gun. Anytime we had a call of an area with that, we'd go out and get it. So 150 cal was bad news. 2 was even worse. And now here we're going out after 200 NVA with 351 cals. And I remember going, now we're going home in 9 days, and now we're getting this. So anyhow, we rolled in on them, and they were in the tree line, and we did our thing. And I remember thinking, of all the times that we're going to get whacked, I only got 9 days left. But obviously, we made it out of there okay.
Jeez.
That was one of the few times I remember the actual mission.
That is unbelievable. And there's some questions coming in and all of that, but I'm always curious, since we're talking a little bit about as we're getting into life around base and everything. We see in all the Vietnam photos that guys had dogs, snakes, monkeys, whatever, detachments, teams, whatever units had mascots. Did DET-8 have a mascot or a pet that they had around?
Yes, it did for a while. It was a like a lab type dog. Dogs weren't, they weren't very safe over there, if you know what I mean. And one of our gunners, Norm Staten, who wound up earning the Navy Cross for his actions, should have been a Medal of Honor, but he wound up with the Navy Cross. He kind of had it as a pet. We all chipped in and we paid whatever we had to do to ship it home with him. So yeah, DET-8 did have a dog for a while. And his name was Dumb, and I'll skip the second words. It started with SH. So anyhow, Norm Staten actually took that dog home with him. So it was one of the pets. So on the second thought, there was another smaller dog that we had that was kind of taken care of by Mama San, who cleaned up for us. And it was named Bút, whatever that meant in Vietnamese. But Bút didn't have a very good ending because some Vietnamese got him.
Yeah.
And had him for dinner.
Yeah.
Don't mean as a guest.
There's a few of the SOG men that had pets that and sadly, once they left and knew no one was going to get them, they unfortunately had some of the dogs for supper, because it's evidently to the Yards and some of the Vietnamese that it was quite the delicacy. The Yards would eat them up, no pun intended. Right. I thought this was a great little shot. I've got some of Mr. Larry's, and there's some of their dogs and monkeys, but y'all have got him dog tags made, and the little logo of the Seawolves, which I've got. I'll bring up in a minute. Of the it looks like a dragon, but it's it's a great photo. And I've got it. I want to bring it up because it's, in my opinion, it's really one of the coolest unit logos there is.
I think so too.
And by the way, guys, y'all should
Yes.
remember this is Scramble the Seawolves that Jocko spoke about on his podcast that y'all can find online. I've got a copy, and I don't know where Mr. John, do you know if y'all are selling them on the website?
I'm sorry, selling what on the website?
The DVD that y'all had made, that Scramble the Seawolves?
I would think so. It's through our bellows, and yeah, I would think they have. If you notice on that picture of the Seawolves, the emblem, the number 44, that was added just recently to respect and honor our KIAs killed in action. We lost 44 guys, which isn't a lot, but if you think about how small the squadron was, it is quite a few. But the original Seawolf emblem did not have the 44 on it, obviously.
Wow, I was curious about that because the one I've got did not have the 44. Wow,
Correct.
that's very special meaning then. Wow, I did not realize that.
Yeah, that's just added last few years.
Wow, very interesting. Thank you for sharing that tidbit. I was curious about that. We had kind of gotten already into missions and the like. As we're getting into going into some more missions, can you tell us, well, first, before we get into the weapons, which is everyone's favorite, did you have, or did you build any kind of routine that you, or maybe a good luck charm that you carried or anything? Were you a kind of good luck kind of guy, a talisman kind of carrier or anything?
Not really, but I did have a St. Christopher medal that almost got me killed.
Oh, Lord.
It fell off
No
my
pun
chain
intended.
benders flying and down my flight suit, and we're just taking off, and I hadn't buckled in yet. And I'm trying to dig it out as we're taking off, and I was hanging on my leg around the mount for the M60, and I'm thinking, that'd be how appropriate would that have been that the St. Christopher medal would have been the cause of my demise, But I got it back, and
Thank goodness, no pun intended. And that's another thing that popped up. One of the viewers was asking. I'm glad they asked. There's a few questions in here, but where was that? I'm sorry about this. I know Mr. Larry took off from ships. Were you guys one of the DETs that did not take off ships, or did y'all take off ships as well?
Correct. No, I never was on a ship.
Wow. Okay. Just curious about that. And how many birds would you say the DET had in total working at any one time?
Ooh, I have no idea. Each detachment had 2 at least. So you're looking at that point, there were 9 detachments. And if I remember, DET-9, when I was there, was actually still based at Sugi. Ben Tui. And Ben Tui had the slicks who were sea lords that did carry out maintenance and supplies to the different detachments. So again, I have no idea. They had enough that we weren't down short birds very often. The maintenance people were just phenomenal. And we had B models. That picture you saw with the Vietnamese pilot, their aircraft were flying the H models, and we were still flying B. So it gives you an idea. We had the old ones that were all fixed up by our maintenance people. So I have no idea how many aircraft they had. We were never short of any in my detachment.
Jeez, that's another thing, and I've got a photo here of it's quite interesting. Not only is it a bird on a ship, but a Chinook is picking it up. And this will coincide with what I was about to talk about. The maintenance men and armorers for the Seawolves are they're a group under their own with what they were able to work with and do with these birds.
Yep, unsung heroes.
And I can only imagine they're bringing that inland to get work done if they're going to take enough time to use a Chinook to go out to the bird, the ship and get it taken off.
That wasn't uncommon. If I remember, they hooked one of ours out one time. That's not it, but we did have one hooked out if I remember right. But I lost my train of thought. Whatever.
Lifting the bird out, it wasn't one of yours, but you
Yeah.
remember.
There's some footage of one being taken out of DET-9. I don't remember if I was there at the time or not.
Wow.
But I think, but again, you know, they did a great job on those things.
Absolutely. And the weapon work. I mean, I've heard I think Mr. Larry was talking about the electronics guys being able to get everything up and running. They had been shot up trying to rescue a SEAL team and literally didn't. I mean, the bird barely limped in and made it onto the ship. And in 3 days, 4 days, the bird was, up and running, spick and span like a Timex.
Yeah, don't doubt it one bit.
Wow. I mean that's just amazing, and especially like you said, for a group stood up in country 5 years, to have guys already in that and capable of being able to do stuff like this. I mean that's amazing stuff right there.
Right.
Could you kind of, which is everybody's favorite here, and I've got one of your pictures, I believe. Could you talk a little bit about what you thought and what the 50 cal was like having it in combat?
Yep, that's me. I got out there, like I said, the last year or so, and I see all this talk about how the 50 cal would tear up the aircraft and everything. Never paid any attention to it. I don't recall any problems at all. Well, we didn't have any problems with it. So that's the 50 cal. That's the ammo box, obviously. And I'm actually sitting on this like jump seat there. And when the time would come, obviously I'd jump behind the machine gun and just lean out the door with it. And that's, again, 50 cal.
How many rounds are you guys carrying for the 50?
You know, I think there was 100 in there, maybe. But again, we had more sitting, on the floor. I know the box of ammo would say 1,000 rounds, and we take all the stuff out. By the stuff, I mean you take all the rounds out, including the cardboard that separated them. We repack it into the ammo box. We would put 2,500 rounds in a 1,000 pound box. So 2.5 what was in the one box. That was for the M60. Now the minigun, which fired the same round, had a tray under the seats that was just strung out with, I don't know, I can't even venture how many rounds were in there. And a 50 cal, I'm sure would have at least 1,000 rounds there.
Jeez Louise. I wonder if this is the mini. No, well, there's the minigun right there.
Yeah, there's truly.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the same pilot. That's a minigun.
Wow, that's a great photo. And it looks like they've been through some minigun rounds right there with the links on the ground.
Yep.
Wowza. What in your opinion, which position did you like more? Did you like using the 50, the 60, the minigun?
The minigun was a pain in the neck because it always would jam. I mean, now you see the aircraft we have nowadays, they fixed all the little problems that they had. The minigun had a thing called a feeder delinker, where it feed around in and delink it. And it was, I think, 8 little perfectly slotted pieces where the ammo or the round would go. And if one got bent out of shape, just a hair, they'd jam. So they would jam a lot. So I particularly didn't care for the minigun. 50 cal was easy. 50 and the M60 was just like the one that you're familiar with from day one. So as far as the maintenance, we did everything together. It wasn't like the one gunner did this and the crew chief did the aircraft. We all worked together, so it didn't really matter. The M60 was great, and the 50 cal, it's just a different ammo, different weapon rather. No real preference on either one of them.
Wow. Okay.
Just the preference was the minigun. And also the pilot or co-pilot had a pilot mount a minigun, and that would jam up a lot too. So they were just, pain in the neck.
Wow.
I'm sure they're better now.
Oh yeah. Gosh, I can't imagine what it'd be like jamming with the jammed up minigun. Was the 50 cal, were y'all using any special type of ammunition or?
No, just 50. The thing is, we the 50 cal we had, the bad guys had a 51 cal,
Oof.
but they
Oof.
could use our ammo, but we couldn't use theirs. So I made a comment, why didn't we make a 52? When they said, well, they didn't make a 53. But the 50 cal had every fifth round was a tracer. It's called APIT, armor piercing incendiary tracer. Armor piercing would go through armor, incendiary burn, and a tracer was what you could see. So every fifth round of the 50 cal had that. And that's what you did. You watch your tracers. We didn't sit behind looking through the sights.
Was the recoil too? That's another thing that all the know-it-alls on the internet would say, that the recoil would ruin the aircraft and the gun would fall off, and B, that y'all couldn't get an accurate target off the recoil anyways. What would you say to that with its recoil on the 50?
No. Never had a problem with the recoil.
That's
Never lost sight of the target. I never had a problem with them, and we didn't. I can't remember exactly. I can't remember a lot of things. I don't know what we did to cushion the recoil, but again, it didn't tear our birds apart. None of them fell out of the aircraft, and the gunners didn't have a problem firing it. And it would hit our target.
And I forgot what Mr. Larry said they did, and I'm sure it got passed around, but there's something they did on top of the weld to the aircraft that they did, and they seemed to think that's what did it, because they did it before and after, and they had rattle, and after it wasn't an issue. So I'm very glad to hear that, and I'll actually chop this up for a clip and share it so people can see it, because boy, do they like saying that there ain't no way the 50 could be reliable in an aircraft.
I know I've seen those posts.
It's amazing to me, and you were the guys that did it and made it.
Yeah, there are a bunch of gunners and a bunch of bad guys on the ground that'll tell you work.
I was about to say,
I should say that the ones on the ground probably don't talk about it much.
No, there were a bunch of wins that didn't make it back to North Vietnam to celebrate the victory, so to speak. Here's I think that's you as well, isn't it?
No, that's John Setters.
John Setters. Oh wow.
His name was John. We call each other big brother, little brother.
Wow. And is this around the compound, or
I didn't take that picture, and I don't know where it is. We didn't land in too many places other than refueling at one spot in our base. Sometimes you go out again. I didn't take that picture, and I don't know where it was, but I know it was him.
Beautiful little marshlands, wherever it was. Hopefully it wasn't too dangerous. Doesn't look like it. He's out of the aircraft. Looks like he's all right.
Well, he's a gunner. You'd have been out either refueling it or something.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
Okay.
My guess would be loading up more rockets.
Ah, okay. Yeah, forgot about that. I have to do that as well. And we're 12 on each side. Is that correct, or was it 6?
7?
7.
Now I'm confused. I forget. If I look at one of the rocket pods, I know, right? You can count them.
I've got one right here that'll tie in with the story I'll bring up. I think you may be right, as a matter of fact. I'll look and see, because it's
only been 50 some years, right?
I've got a photo I'll bring up of a pod that'll tie in with a story. Did y'all wear the chicken plate, and what were y'all's helmets like? See, he's got a little bit of a visor situation going on there. What was?
And there's a number for it, and I don't know what the number is. In fact, I got mine in my man cave there. It had 2 visors. One was clear, one was dark. And I don't remember using the dark very often. And that white spot on his is just scratched up. And I remember, again, we'd go back to our headquarters and get whatever we needed. I went through about 3 or 4 different helmets before I got one I was comfortable with. Just go back, let me try a different one. Now apparently they fit the pilots. They measure everything, and they custom made for them. I just grabbed whatever I felt comfortable with. In fact, I brought home the last one I had.
Okay. Let me pull this. I think there's a story behind this rocket pod. I think y'all may have used it as camp defense. I hope I didn't delete that. Oh, nope, here it is. And we can count how many rockets are in the pod.
No, those pods were used probably on some heavier, heavier helicopters. That was at our base. You know, the one picture you saw with the helicopter right behind it, parked in the corner.
Mhm.
Those rockets were flechettes.
Oh,
With
yes.
nails,
Mhm.
like they came out like a shotgun effect. Instead of hitting a certain area point, detonating, going off, they would burst in midair. We had them on our base because if we're getting overrun, we'd load up with those and come back in and put it in on our own base.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yeah, that's one of my pictures that Tom took. Yeah, those are just flechettes.
Wow.
Yeah,
And
waiting. Yeah,
and those are gnarly buggers. I got a few flechettes, individual flechettes sent
uh-huh.
to me by a Cobra pilot. And boy, thinking about a rocket pod full of those coming after you in the jungle is absolutely terrifying to think
Yeah,
about.
cover a big area, right?
Oh yeah, I mean you can bush hog a jungle with a rocket or two of those. I mean, good God Almighty. Um, let's see. Let me get some of the questions here for everybody while I'm taking up all the questions. This is more of this was a question. Was told by a NAM chopper pilot in the air cav that in Navy, if you're a below average pilot, they just stuck you in the helicopters. Is that true?
Coming from, let's see, he was told by a non-chopper pilot in air cav. Well, that's the Army. You know, we can badmouth each other all we want. Civilians can't.
Yeah.
That's a good comment. I would agree to a certain point.
Mhm.
Not below average pilot, below average. What's the
Air.
word I want? Mentality.
Yeah.
So yeah, stuck in helicopters. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Um, that was talking about y'all leaving there at the bit. Let's see. She needed stressing. Got home. She has 3 kids. I don't know what in the heck that was. Excuse me, that was a waste of time. Jay was also curious. Did you get any time behind the stick during your time in Vietnam?
Very little, but some gunners did. Crew chiefs. The deal was, if one of the pilots got shot or wounded or whatever, immediately the gunner behind him would pull these pins and bring them back down flat and work on them. The crew chief would jump in and assist the pilot or a co-pilot and get out of there. So stick time, I personally flew like twice for a little bit and actually did pretty well. Hovering was kind of cool because you got a drift. But as far as stick time, nothing. At that time, like I said, a little bit of training I had for that would have been, God forbid, in an emergency. Could I have gotten this out of there? Yeah, I wouldn't know where I was going. Could I have landed? Yeah, but it probably wouldn't have been really smooth or nice. Any crash you walk away from is a good one.
Yeah.
But no, as far as real stick time, no, I didn't personally. I mean, I know a lot of gunners did.
Yeah, that seems like and although in in y'all situations, I don't know if y'all's crash landing the birds would have been flying out in any situation with what y'all are doing, which a question will take care of that. But I always thought it might be a good idea to at least to get the guys to where they could hover and land. God forbid if y'all did need to take over.
Right.
That seems like it might be a good idea. I'm not familiar about this from Mr. Walt. Funny, great nickname, great screen name. I remember reading Daniel Kelly's book when it first came out and it being my favorite book at the time. Do you know Daniel Kelly?
I knew him. Yes, he's passed away. I didn't fly with him. He was in a different detachment. I
Okay.
have both his books. I read both. The first one was, I think it's, what's it called? SeaWolf First Choice.
Oh,
Anyhow, I can't remember the second. I can't remember the title of both books, but yeah, it was pretty good. It was good.
wow. I'll have to check into that. I've Lord knows I've got enough SOG and Force Recon and alert books. I need to start making sure. Actually, Mr. Larry sent me one of the little brief histories of the
Okay.
Seawolves that I've got, but I need to
Who
actually get some
is there
books.
an author on that?
James D. Sprinkle.
Okay.
I'm not sure where he got this. I'll ask him and see. Journal of American Aviation Historical Society, the winner of
Okay.
1988.
Okay.
So I guess he may have just kept it and had it. But I'll ask him if he's got any copies or knows where to get them. But
Sure.
this was coming up. I know the guys would be anxious to ask about this. Did you get to work with any of the SEAL teams in Vietnam?
Me personally, no, I didn't. Just didn't work out that way. I was given when we were leaving, for some reason, there was one of the guys. He was in naval intelligence, which is an oxymoron. We know that. As we were leaving, he approached me and gave me this guy's K-bar. The sheath, the knife, the whatever. And he said it was to be given to me by a Navy SEAL. I don't know why. I don't even know if what's the story behind it. I must have done something somewhere down the line and bailed his butt out. I don't know, but it's one of my prized possessions. But I personally don't remember being inserting them or coming to them. But again, it's all a blur. I mean, we flew so much.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Y'all came across them at one point in time, 550 some odd times. I'm sure y'all's passed across at some point in time unknowingly. I always thought this is a great photo of you, and was curious about, and great patch placement for the Seawolf.
That's where it was. Yeah.
Did the what was the Black Beret a unit thing, or was that a Navy wide helo tradition? Or
There's an order or whatever they call it that came out authorizing the wearing of the black beret by Task Force 116, I think they call it. It was actually the
yes,
SEALs, the riverboat guys, the Brown Water Navy, and the Seawolves are the only ones that ever in the Navy to wear the black beret. If you
wow,
notice on that picture later, we wound up putting our wings on our beret, and the flechettes were a little. Yeah, there you go. That was my
oh,
rank in
okay,
third class. Zoom in again, please. Can you go to the back? No, it's just a pin. The story behind the combat air crew wings was kind of neat because the Navy just did away with them after I think World War II, maybe even Korea, because they didn't have gunners that were authorized. So at that time, we were only authorized to wear air crew wings, not combat air crew wings. And Marine in the States, because they're Marines, would have combat air crew wings, even if they weren't in combat. That's been changed too. But we wore combat air crew wings on our beret with the attitude was, we got them, you want to try and take them from us. 33 years later, Admiral Zumwalt issued 68 of us combat air crew wings at one of our reunions, retroactive back to
wow,
that time. So we wore combat air crew wings because we were in combat, and we wore
that's
them on our beret.
amazing. Thank
Yeah, that
you.
was like my identification picture when I first went to the Seawolves.
Wow, that's amazing, y'all. That Admiral Zumwalt awarded y'all retroactively and
Yeah,
recognized y'all like that. That's a
yeah, I got
wonderful
it
honor.
presented to me. Yeah, great guy.
Um, There'll be two good questions coming up here, but I like this photo as well of you getting ready to, I
Yeah,
guess, head into action, maybe.
I found out it was taken by Ralph Munir. Munir, I can't even pronounce his name. I know him as Ralph. I don't remember it, but obviously it's me. He took it. The number 88 on the side, our pilots were given call signs. And because it was DET-8, it always started out with the number 8. This Lieutenant JG at the time, I think, his name was Lieutenant Jim Joyce. He was DET-8, number 8. So his call sign was Seawolf 88.
Oh,
The Seawolf 81 would be the officer in charge, I think. Or maybe it would be DET 80. Again, the number had nothing to do with anything. Second number, other than to be specific for that pilot. So
okay.
that's what the 88 meant.
Wow. And did you guys I guess since y'all were small, did y'all rotate fairly often with pilots, or did you get set with a pilot for your whole stint, so to speak?
There was, like I said, 16 of us out there, 8 gunners and 8 pilots. I don't remember a specific rotation. I didn't pay attention. I just jumped in. I trusted all the pilots. We all did. So I didn't really have a preference. One could be a jerk, and I won't mention his name. But he, like I said, we still trusted him. So we weren't assigned as a crew.
Oh, wow. Kind of floating around as needed, if you will.
Yeah.
Wow.
I personally liked flying. If we had a holiday or something, I'd fly. I was a designated gunner. So if there was a time like a holiday where they could go have a few drinks, I never drank. So they call me the designated gunner.
I like that, the designated gunner.
Yeah.
Everyone, this is a great shot of you, by the way. Guys are always interested, especially not only seeing the 60s y'all are using and such as that. And I'll have to find the photo. I know I've got it, but could you explain the interesting, and I need to bring it up, but the interesting way you guys shot the 60 with it kind of,
if you look,
sideways?
It was sideways. The hand grip on the bottom corner was just a grip. The ammo was fed over the top. Later, we used sea ration cans to help with the jamming, so it feed better. And if you look where my right hand is, there's no butt plate. It was just an empty, I can't even think what it's called, where the buffer was. If we were knocked down on the ground and we had to take the gun off, we would set that on our right shoulder, lean over the top with the fake grip with the left hand, and fire with our right little pinky. That was our trigger finger. It was modified that way, so it would also throw the brass and links. Yeah, there's another example. That's free gunning. The picture of me is on a mount. I don't know who that is, but that's how we had it mounted.
One of Mr. Larry's older photos.
Yeah, that's a good view of it also.
Wow. Again, so, I mean, y'all had it perfectly placed. I know brass is coming up after y'all and all of that.
Yeah. Well, a lot of it would come in, but it's not quite as much. And you can kind of control it a little bit more.
And is this would y'all wear a chicken plate and the whole 9 yards, so to speak?
Right. The chicken plate consisted of just the front and back paddle. If I remember, the seats were fiberglass somewhat. Some is a fiberglass like the chicken plate itself. Oh, wow. The problem was, and it didn't happen, fortunately, that I know of, it could take ricochets and still get you. But yeah, so that was something there. Some protection. Those are some of my great pictures.
Yeah, Mr. Larry did a great job collecting some of them here. Some of the waterways and such as that, gunship targets. One of our let me get this off here so we can see. One of our questions was well, there's 2 or 3 now. Sean Swafford was curious. John, was it you that was telling me about flechette rounds for the 1.75 rockets?
I know Sean through social media. His father was a gunner. I didn't know him personally, but apparently he did a great job from everything I know. I don't know about telling him about the flechette rounds for the 175. I don't quite understand the 175.
Or maybe, Sean, if you can elaborate a little bit more, maybe we can get that answered a bit more. Jay was curious, do you have a mission that stands out that you remember very well? Maybe a tough one or a happy ending one?
Well, yeah, I remember one in particular because it turned out okay. We got scrambled to support an Army advisor who was getting overrun. His base was getting overrun. And the reason I remember this is I was assigned to the 50 cal. And we scrambled, and I got to the chopper first and untied the rotor blade, which is the other gunner's job. So when he showed up, because I was doing that, he said, "You want the 50? No, go ahead and take it." So Bobby Mann, we call him Pappy, took the 50 cal, and I went on the 60. We took off, and when we got there, they opened up on us from 9 different locations, so I was told. And the funny part, if you want to call it that, the advisor down there was marking the target with his tracers. from his rifle. I would assume it was an M16. And he would fire a few rounds as we were coming in toward him and toward the bad guys, where the bad guys were between us. And he'd fire marking that area. But when we flew around and we were firing over the top of him, he would let loose like crazy because he wanted to make sure we knew where he was. And I kind of smirked at that, thinking it was kind of interesting. He wanted to make sure we knew that where he was. So anyhow, we wound up putting in enough strikes and put the bad guys away. But the 50 cal that I was supposed to be on blew up. Timing was off or something, and the two pilots and the other gunner got hit with shrapnel. I didn't get a scratch, and I kind of think, it was supposed to be me. But it all worked out.
Holy cow. Jeez.
And we did not leave. That was another question about it. No, even though the one pilot or the pilots, I think they got shrapnel in the back of the shoulders or whatever. But Bobby Mann took a couple pieces of shrapnel in the neck and everything. But he stayed on the scene, and we finished up. We had to do what we had to do before we left.
That is some tough business right there. Wow. I think I had, let me see what that was. I was about, people were asking about what was, and I've got a photo of the map room. What was the daily briefing or the briefing you guys would get? What was that like for an operation?
None.
None.
No, unless we had a special mission, they would go over a little bit with us, but we didn't really have briefings. Just wait around, got targets or scrambled. I don't remember going through too many briefings. We did have a couple of special missions involving the USS New Jersey off the coast, where a Marine was a spotter with us. So we went over a little bit of what we were expecting to do there. They were blasting the area. We were going to cover the area with any of the bad guys leaving. But as far as briefing, I don't remember much of it at all. I just hang around like the other gunners and, do nothing or working on our weapons and stuff and got scrambled.
Wow.
You didn't get much of a briefing on a scramble, just, where you're going and what we're looking for.
That is, that's wild stuff. Scramble the Seawolves. Was it y'all's area?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
yeah,
what
obviously the birds are gone. If you look, you see the rock or the pods with the flechettes.
There they are. That's them. I just now noticed and put them together, and there they are. Some more right there.
Where did that picture come from? Wow.
That's yours actually. Off Facebook, one of them.
Really?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Huh, okay. I mean, I know the area. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a few of them that I luckily snagged that you had. And here was another one that I was that's pretty interesting. Hang on, let me exit this one, guys. I'm still getting back used to working here. An officer overlooking. Hang on, there's a call from someone rude enough to call during a.
Okay.
That looks like can't tell if that's an Air Force bird or a Navy bird, but looks like one of the pilots and somebody loading up to go out.
Yeah.
Well, it's y'all with a minigun, so clearly.
I know that picture well. That's the VNAF that came out to fly with us. The Vietnamese pilot, the Vietnamese crew.
Okay.
And I think I can't remember the pilot's name. Young. Lieutenant AG or Lieutenant Young, and I want to say the guy next to him would be Heckman, but I'm not really sure. But it's a Vietnamese crew. They're lifting off. They're leaving that area.
Wow. And I mean, was that a common occurrence that the Vietnamese would ever show up to either work or be around y'all very much?
They came out to our detachment as we were winding down. I don't know, maybe a month or so before we left. And they were learning tactics.
Okay.
We had their gunners, so they were we're training them, but they knew what they were doing already. I flew with them. A couple times I flew as one gunner, and the Vietnamese guy was the other gunner, and it was a Vietnamese pilot with one of our pilots, if I'm not mistaken. But we flew in pairs, so it may have been just the whole Vietnamese crew flying. I don't remember.
So they could kind of take y'all's spot, so to speak, for that
Yeah,
AO.
it was kind of taught or thought that they were learning tactics, but I'm sure they learned those, whatever. It was like, yeah, replacements.
Wow, heavy duty. Okay, we heard a lot about it, the Vietnamization
Right.
process from the ground guys. So that's interesting that they were coming to you guys to learn the air side of things, even though, like you said, they had kind of been doing it. But to get the teaching from y'all was, I'm sure, a leg up for them being able to learn some of y'all stuff. Jay was curious, did you have the unfortunate luck of ever being shot out of the sky or having to go down?
No, fortunately. We
Thank the
took
Lord.
rounds, a couple pops here and there. Uh, never got shot down. Crashed one time. It's a maintenance problem
Oh,
during the daily maintenance, but no, any crash you can walk away from is a good one. So no injuries and nothing major. But no, very fortunate. I mean, we had bullets come through the doors and bounce off the ammo boxes and things like that. But no, we never got shot down.
jeez Louise. Did y'all have any personal weapons, God forbid, machine guns or anything if y'all did get shot down? Or
Well, if you got shot down, the chopper, the pilot would take the front for a perimeter or whatever you want to call it, defensive positions. The co-pilot, they had M16s attached, hanging behind the seats.
okay.
The co-pilot would go around to the rear of the bird. The left gunner, second gunner, the machine gun or M60 would take the M60 off and take care of the left side. The right side, the gunner was a 50 cal. He had to stay in the bird with a 50 cal because he couldn't carry that one. So we'd set up a perimeter if we were shot down. And obviously the other bird would still be in the area, hopefully.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I'd forgotten with everyone flying around that hopefully all of y'all could have uh, a quick pickup and not have to sit out and
Right.
stay on the ground for two daggum long. Uh, Always bad talking about getting shot down and all of that. God forbid. What kind of enemy weaponry? Of course, the AK, the SKS. Were y'all and 51? Were y'all getting any? I'm sure RPGs. Were y'all getting anything big, so to speak?
No, the biggest would be the 51 cal.
Which is still pretty daggum big.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we had
Flying
yeah,
basketball.
right.
Wow, jeez. Did y'all find the RPGs pretty dangerous when they'd
I never
come?
dealt with them.
Never dealt with
I
them.
could propel grenades. I know, obviously, but no, I don't recall ever dealing with them.
Wow, thank goodness.
I think I would have remembered.
Yeah, I'm sure, especially as close to combat and all, close to the enemy as y'all were. I'm can only imagine. I always find these photos interesting. You guys that were brave enough to walk the skids and
Yes, I did.
take photos of the pilots.
Yeah.
What was that all about?
How
Just
did how
pranking
did
and
you know
having
I did
fun?
that? Yeah, we're coming. Obviously, you don't do it when you're on a ways going somewhere. We're coming back, and I would hook my monkey harness further up front, walk out on the skid, and tap the pilot on the shoulder. See him flinch. And I asked them later. They said they could feel the weight shift and didn't know what it was. Then they look out, and here's this kid out there with an instamatic camera taking pictures. Kid, yeah, I was a kid at the time.
That is, I love that, and I can only imagine the first couple of pilots to have that done to them are like, "What in God's name is going on here?" um, Jay was curious. Was the U-Men the most dangerous AO you had?
Probably, yeah. It was human forest. It was known. I think they call it the forest of assassins or something. Heavily infested with NVA,
Yeah,
and yeah. But again, we flew in that whole area, so sometimes our missions weren't in the human forest. But again, that was our area of operation.
I mean, it goes. It's got a long history back when Vietnamese pirates were around, bringing their
Okay,
opium in there, and perfect place to hide. They had supposed camps in the forest, and the SEALs had a time working that area as well.
right. I think they had a hospital in there at one point.
Oh yes, sir, huge one, huge hospital. So yeah, I mean, it was. I forgot how many 1,400 acres or some weird number of just uninhabitable bad man country, so to speak. Geez Louise. Let's see here. Did you were you guys were staying? Were the accommodations kind of like what we see a bunk bed shack kind of deal and living accommodations?
Pretty close to that.
That's DET-2.
We were fortunate at DET-8 because the building we had was built by the Seabees.
Oh wow!
So we actually had a water tower, and we could take showers. I hate to think of what that water was like now.
Oh god!
But yeah, all the comforts of home. We had bunks.
Yeah, the having it having it made by the Seabees, that's the best you can do right there.
Right.
I've heard some good stories about them. Jay was curious, do you remember what maintenance issue caused the crash?
Yeah, one of the, and I don't know what it's called. We would take a line off the engine and flush the dust and everything out with water as a daily maintenance thing. And one of us, and it wasn't me, forgot to put the line back on. And we took off. We weren't getting any power to the point where I was training a gunner at the time. He had to get off and stay at our detachment there while we made a run alongside the aircraft and jump in last minute. We almost crashed into the ammo dump at the runway. And as we got over the water, I mentioned to the pilot, we still got the rocket pods here. Do you want to drop them? And he said, yeah, no, yeah. And as soon as I heard, yeah, I dropped them. And we went down to survival ammo, kicked everything out except what we would need for survival, which was 200 rounds from the M60. And I looked back and it was gone because Setters threw it out the other door. So we wound up landing in a safe place and, resolved the problem and went on with the rest of the day. But yeah, it was a maintenance problem, and it was our fault, not the maintenance people.
Thank goodness y'all figured it out in a timely fashion, like you guys did, and landed in a safe enough area with
right.
no ammunition to where you guys could continue on and go unabated, so to speak. Woof.
The other plane was right behind us. The other Bear 2 coming in.
Oh yeah, true that. Y'all Seawolves never travel alone.
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully not. Let's see. Trying to make sure I'm not skipping questions. Jay was curious, what was for the first place you started learning about the turbine maintenance or turbine maintenance?
Never. No. I was fortunate. I only did the daily maintenance, which was very limited. Yeah, I wasn't trained in the turbines. I was trained, if you want to call it that, with the reciprocal engines.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But no, I never dealt with them. I have a buddy who says, because I was never on a boat and never worked any maintenance, he says, you never ran a boat, never picked up a wrench. He said, there isn't a jury in the world that would ever convict you of being in the Navy because of that. So I was fortunate. I didn't have to do that kind of stuff. I did what I liked.
Wow, that's great stuff.
I enjoyed what I did.
Oh man. Was going through some photos of some old PT boats and such that Mr. Larry sent me. I'm definitely gonna have to have him back on and talk about some of these crazy swift boat photos that he sent me not too long ago. Do you what we always hear of we saw y'all's tradition, but is there a certain number of days as you're starting to get low on your tour, so to speak, that they take you off flight duty just to take care, be safe, so to speak? Or
over the reunions that we've had, one of our historians, Thompson mentioned how that they would bring you in the last X amount of time and stay at the headquarters and fly out of there. But in our case, it didn't happen because we were pulled out. I don't know what the plan was. As far as the gunners, no, the pilots may have rotated in to, get out of that. But again, like I said, we were notified and we're closing shop. And like I said, we turned the light out, as they call it. So there was no downtime, if you want to call it that. Our detachment pulled in. We sat around for, I don't remember what we did there, and checked out, and we're gone. At home.
Wow. Heavy duty, heavy duty. Um, do you remember figuring out, or I'm sure you all of you guys kept a close watch on how much more time or how many more flights, so to speak, y'all had left. Do you remember that feeling you got, or what it was like knowing you were about to be on the other side of this thing and getting to head home?
It's short time calendars where you start marking down the days. No, because we weren't ready to go until boom, like I said, they told us you're going home in 9 days. So then we pulled out and I think we're stuck in Ben Tui, or maybe even Saigon while we're processed out, maybe a week. And that was it. And then we got on the Freedom Bird and headed home.
Wow. Holy cow. Just like that. No, in 1 minute you're off flying, fighting, shooting. The next minute, hey, time to go home, get your stuff, and let's go.
Yep.
Wow. 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 That is crazy. Um, what's I mean, what's that like? Yeah. Well, there you are. I mean, you hop on the, was it a military escort or flight home, or was it a commercial
They had
airline?
they had commercial airlines, I believe, flying out of Saigon.
Wow.
Um,
Holy cow.
they were stripped down and added more seats if I remember, but
Mhm.
I really can't recall. I know that, like I said, there are different airlines that flew in and out of there, civilian airlines from contractors or whatever. I don't
Wow.
remember much about that.
Wow. I know did you say a little Hail Mary thank you as you were walking up those steps loading up on the Freedom Bird, or did you just load up and get the hell out of town?
I probably didn't say many Hail Marys or anything then. I sure said enough of them prior to that.
Yeah, Lord knows that's the truth. Wow. And do you remember what day did you say you remember lifting off and leaving out of Vietnam officially?
Yeah. Uh, I arrived with my buddy. We had a choice of where to go in the States. We picked Point Magoo, California, because as far as this place from home, where we get paid more money to fly commercial. Uh,
Wow.
his wife was birthday was 14th of March, and he got home in time to meet her. I arrived March 16th, got home the following day was St. Patrick's Day, my birthday, and I turned 22. So thought I
20,
was old.
20. I mean, by that time, considering what you had been through, at least mentally and emotionally, you definitely were an old man coming
Yeah,
home in a young man's body. Jeez Louise. I can only imagine mom and dad and everybody was happy you were home and glad to see you.
well, both my parents died when I was over there, so it was
Very
just
sorry to hear that,
yeah.
sir.
Oh, life
Sorry.
wasn't. Yeah, one each tour, so
God Almighty, I'm sorry.
no problem.
Hmm. Jeez Louise. Well, I
But I
know
got
everybody.
got home, and went on with my life.
Yes,
Everything's good.
sir. Yes, sir. Did you happen to continue on in anything aviator related, or did you go to school and do something else with your life?
I putzed around for a few months, and then a buddy confronted me about going to college and playing hockey.
Oh,
So the GI
wow.
Bill paid for me to do that. And then
Okay.
Desert Storm started. I went back in, but I didn't do anything.
Wow. Okay. So not
But,
only are you an
but
undercover hockey player, but you also went back in and all of that. That's amazing. Wow. Did you well, if you don't mind me asking, what did you end up graduating with from the university?
I went to a community college, but I also got on a police department. So I did
Wow.
31 years as a cop.
Jeez Louise, 31 years.
Yeah.
Wow. Boy, that is a if you someone says they're looking how you can devote yourself to this country, serving your country in combat or in any uniform, and then to swap it and serve 31 years for your local community is just unbelievable. I gotta take my hat off and commend you for
I
that, sir.
appreciate that. Thanks.
That's amazing stuff. Thank you for your service all around. That's amazing.
You're welcome.
Um, is there we've gone about an hour and a half here, and I don't want to hold you too long. We can always get you back. Um, Is there anything else you'd like to share before we shut down for at least for this part?
Well, just the things we're talking about, and I mentioned we're talking about me, but it wasn't just me. The whole squadron, all those guys were basically did the same thing. We flew tons of missions, and fortunately, most of us made. Well, we lost a few, but
Yeah.
Other than that, I didn't do anything extraordinary compared to anybody else. We all just basically did our job.
It's
I used to talk to kids in school, and I tell them that if you do what you believe in, no matter the outcome, you can live with it. And I have no regrets.
Can always tell a true warrior and a true hero by saying them being so humble as saying, I just did my part, and I'm no hero. Served with them, and
Right.
you're a good man, and we all thank you for your service to this nation, and hopefully maybe we can have you back for either have you and Mr. Larry on to talk about the differences between y'all's two debts, and or a reunion show or something, or just have you back on to talk to us and go over some photos again.
Sure. Yeah, Larry would be the guy to talk to. He's got a.
Yeah. Excellent. All righty. Well, sir, I'm going to let you go today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day as well as everyone else. And we're going to shut down, and hope everyone has a good day, and we'll talk to y'all later.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My
See y'all
pleasure.
later.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
See ya. Bye.